What's up, you guys? So it is November, which means it is Diabetes Awareness Month, and that's why I'm so excited that I have some awesome questions to answer for you guys. I originally just asked these questions or asked for questions on my Instagram story because I had a lot of new followers and a lot of people just like to know little things like when was I diagnosed, or like what's my favorite hypo treatment, stuff like that. So I figured that I would do a little Q&A answering those questions for the people that didn't know the answers, and then I ended up getting some really great questions that I haven't gotten before. Like, you guys got creative, you guys got deep, and those are the questions that I've been waiting for. So I have some answers for you, and happy Diabetes Awareness Month. Alright, so one thing that I wish Instagram would do is when you submit the question, it cuts off after a certain amount of characters. So for some of these questions, it's kind of cut off, but I can get the gist of what you were saying. So when you see the question here, it won't be the whole thing. So hopefully Instagram will fix that at some point. Mama B23 asked, how do you know the pump was right for you? We're almost a year into diagnosis and on the fence. Everybody has their thing that makes them comfortable, and when it comes to managing your diabetes, you need to be comfortable. So if the pump is not your thing, that's totally fine. I can understand the idea of keeping things simple just by sticking with syringes or with pens, but for me, I really just hated shots. And also, one thing I really love about the pump is that you can give yourself very exact dosages, which is really hard to do when you're like trying to get that amount into your syringe. So for me, it was just like a no-brainer. I wanted a pump so badly. I did not want to take shots anymore. And I truly wholeheartedly believe that a pump can improve your A1C and really help you fix those little problem areas, like whether you're going low from this time to this time in the middle of the night. You can adjust your pump so precisely that, to me, I can't imagine not having a pump. So, but then again, if you are doing great with multiple daily injections and you have no issues with that and you're comfortable and your A1C is fine, then maybe don't switch it up, especially because pumps can tend to be pretty expensive. But it is such a personal choice. But maybe just try one and see how you feel. But I personally love my pump so much. Speaking of pumps, Gracie Jo Carpenter said, any advice on how to calm your anxiety when changing your pump or sensor? That is such a good question. So my answer to this is that I think it just takes time. Like, the more you do it, the more comfortable you become with it. But then again, I'm sure you know from giving injections that every once in a while you just hit a bad spot and it's more painful than others. Sometimes you don't feel it at all. It's the exact same with the pump. My thing that I do when I'm having trouble changing my pump because I feel nervous or whatever is I always hold someone's hand. Like, if it's my mom or my fiance, just squeezing someone's hand, it just kind of takes like the edge off of it. I don't know how else to explain it. It calms me down a lot just to like hold someone's hand and just like have someone there with me so I don't feel alone in it. But every once in a while I do still just get scared, like for no reason. I don't know why, and that's totally normal. Just have someone around who makes you feel comfortable and who can calm you down and like hold your hand or whatever. Maybe if you just like having them around. Yeah, that's what I do. I always put my hand over the site, because I don't know why that calms me down too, but like when I put my pump on my arm, I always go like that. And sometimes if I'm like especially nervous about it, I'll even have Mikey put his hand on there for me. And there's something just about like the warmth of his hand, I guess, that's soothing, that makes it just not as nerve-wracking. And as for sensors, I'm actually really nervous about that. The one time I did try Dexcom, the educator put it on for me and I was so surprised because I didn't even feel it, but I've never done it myself and I'm really nervous. So I will get back to you on that. Galamita, I think is how she says her name, asked, how do you deal with everything? You seem to have way more than type 1 diabetes on your plate. So that's a funny question. I don't really know how I deal with everything. I think if you've seen my recent videos and my Instagram stories in particular, you'll notice that I've had quite a few like mental breakdowns. I don't really know how I deal with it. I have like good months where I'm super positive, and oh no, I do have an answer for that. It's just my community, whether that be my family or Mikey or my friends or even just this community of people online. Like, I draw strength from you guys. So just like really, if you're struggling, just like lean on your community. How do you find insulin and dieting? So I don't know if you mean like dieting, like trying to lose weight dieting, or just like changing up your diet because you're allergic to something. I'm actually pretty insulin sensitive, so like if I will be cutting down on my foods, which I never do because I tend to be underweight, so I never ever like go on a diet. I think if I did though, I'd be running pretty much on my basal insulin and like no bolus at all. I would need very little, I guess, and I would go low a lot. So I'd have to be really careful. So if you are insulin sensitive or you tend to go low, I would suggest just be extremely careful with that. I would imagine like you would need less insulin if you were going to go on a diet. Talk to your doctor though, because I don't know how well that works, to be honest. The same person, L Rose 27. Have you ever overtreated a hypo? Yes. I probably overtreat my hypos almost every time that I treat a hypo, just because I can't help myself. I think we've all done that. Who you are when your blood sugar is low, you can't blame that person because it's almost like your self-control is gone. So yes, the short answer is yes, definitely. Allie asks, have you thought about switching to 670G? It's so nice. I have heard good things about that pump. However, I am such an Omnipod girl that I can't imagine switching. So I don't know, maybe at some point. Mikey actually just went to the endo and we have the same endocrinologist, and she said that Omnipod hasn't caught up with, like, I don't know what she called it, micro needles, or like the needle in the pump isn't the same as like the newer technology in other pumps. And that's the reason that he asked about that, is because he has a lot of issues with like site soreness, and it's just getting to be like to the point where he doesn't even know where to put his pod anymore. So maybe for that reason we would switch. But even then I feel like I'd rather write like a letter to Omnipod asking them to like address that issue, because I'm just so comfortable with it that I hate change, especially when it comes to my diabetes. I get so nervous about change. So I don't think I would switch anytime soon, but I'm really glad that you like it, and I think it's so important that everybody has the pump that they feel comfortable with. This is a really, really good question. Court asked, what is one thing you wish you could tell your younger diabetic self if you had the chance? Oh, this is a good one. Sorry, I just had to wait for that car to pass. The main thing I would say is that I kind of touched on this already in this video, but that you never know what one thing could lead to, what doors could be open because of something. And I think back, like if I did not have diabetes, like I would have never gone to summer camp. So many of my best friends are diabetics, I would have never met them. And then of course Mikey, there's no reason that we would have ever met each other if we weren't diabetic, because we met on Instagram on #Omnipod. So I just tell myself like my life would be so different, and so many of the positive things in my life wouldn't exist if I didn't have diabetes. So I would just tell myself like, girl, you're gonna be fine, you're gonna meet your soulmate and have so many experiences. But I know that doesn't really apply to everybody, because not everybody meets their soulmate online or because they have the same disease. So I guess if I had to answer this in a broader sense, just know that if you're a young person that has just been diagnosed, just know that because of this diagnosis, you will be a stronger person. Like it will humble you, strengthen you, and open doors that you never knew were even there. So if I could tell my younger self that, I definitely would. Thomas asks, have you tried the Libre meter? To be honest, the only meters I've ever tried, I think, are Accu-Check meter, which I had before I had the Omnipod, because if you don't know, the PDM to the Omnipod actually functions as a glucometer, so you don't need like a separate one. And I've tried One Drop, and I've had like a few random ones here and there, but I've never tried that one. So, and I don't think I will, just because I have a meter on my PDM and I'm looking to get the Dexcom, so I don't think I'll really need it. But so I don't really have any reviews or anything to say about that. I think Fred asks, how did you tell your first boyfriend or girlfriend about your type 1 diabetes? First of all, Thank you for saying boyfriend or girlfriend and not assuming. I don't feel like anybody really does that. Secondly, this is kind of weird. My first serious boyfriend, one of my first experiences with them, because I went to school with them, but it was at a birthday party and it was outside, so the sun was going down and I had to check my blood sugar. So I had whipped out I guess I still was on multiple daily injections. So I got out my glucometer and I was struggling to check my sugar in the dark, and he actually walked over and he didn't even know what I was doing. He just saw that I was struggling, and I think he shined his cell phone light or something over it and was like, here, let me help you. So it was like that just came up instantly because like he literally caught me in the act of checking my blood sugar. So that was just like, it was just at the forefront immediately. If you're asking this in terms of like trying to figure out how you bring something like that up, that is a little bit tricky, because you don't want to be like so casual about it to the point where like if months into your relationship they don't even know you have diabetes, which I'm not even really sure how you could pull that off. But you also don't want to be like too like crazy about it where like they feel like they have to worry. But even then, if you were to quote scare them off, in my opinion, they're not the right person for you. It depends on the person. With each person I've dated, it's come up in some random way or other, but mostly because I can't go a day without really mentioning it, because if they ask me how I'm feeling and my sugar is low, then I got to bring that up. If we go out on a date to eat, I'm going to be giving myself insulin. It's like it comes up, but you don't want to like surprise them with it either. Or like you're at a restaurant and they've known you however long, and then all of a sudden you're giving yourself a shot and it's like that comes to shock. That's kind of weird. How did you guys, please in the comments put below how you guys told your significant others about your diabetes and how that went, because I'm curious. It's just always been so random with like I guess I've had like 3 serious relationships and it's come up in different ways each time. So not quite sure, but again, the main thing being that you shouldn't be afraid to tell them, and if they react negatively, just get rid of them. Have you felt guilty because your fiance has to deal with the emotional worry that comes along? And I'm guessing it says like with having diabetes. I guess this is kind of funny, just because Mikey is a type 1 diabetic, that I don't really feel as guilty because he's experiencing the exact same things. I would say if there's anybody that I feel guilty about, it's more so my parents, just because they can't understand it on the same level that he does, and I know that they worry about me so much. So not so much with Mikey, just because I know that he fully understands. And there is a side of it where I do feel a little bit guilty, because like I know what it's like to date someone with diabetes, and I know that the stress and worry that comes along with it, and I wish more than anything that I could take it away from him, just because I do know exactly what it's like, and it does break my heart a little bit that he has to deal with it. But not with him, just more so with my family, because I know, especially living across the country from my parents, that they do worry. So I guess the guilt is more towards them. Last question I'm going to do is, this is a really, really good question. How do you deal with the fact that diabetes is a lifelong disease? I still struggle with it, and I still struggle with it too. I don't know anyone that doesn't, because it's hard to accept that something can be so permanent. You know, like that was the main thing when I was diagnosed. It was like, I wish I had like some idea of when it could end, and I could like count down the days, like, oh, this is only gonna be so many years long, or when I'm an old woman with grandchildren, like I'm not gonna have to deal with this, but then thinking that I still will is really, really, really difficult. Oh, I feel bad because I don't really have like a good answer for that, because I do struggle with that, and I guess I just try to keep my hopes up, thinking that maybe there could be a cure someday, and I do believe there will be. I don't know if it will be in my lifetime. I know people are always saying, 5 years down the road or whatever, and I know that technology is really improving rapidly to the point that when I am an old lady, I do think if it's not cured, there will be, like, the technology will be so amazing that it won't really seem like that big of a deal. But yeah, it is hard when something negative is, there's no end in sight, So we just have to stay positive and hope that technology will make it less of a burden. Alright, thank you so much for your questions. I really did like these questions, and I had a lot of fun doing this. Happy Diabetes Awareness Month, And if you like this video, please go ahead and give it a thumbs up, click the bell button so that you're notified when I post, and I will see you guys in my next video. Wait, why do people say that? Like, I will see you in my next video, because I'm not going to see you. You're going to see me. Thank you guys. I hope you have an awesome day and that you enjoyed this video. Bye!